Alright, Kate, you ready? I just want to know how many nightmares you're prepared for. With those words, Kate was totally baffled, left with no choice but to follow orders. In a blink, Kate's team rushed into Mexico, and as soon as they crossed the border, the Mexican police sent a fleet of security vehicles for protection. Kate was puzzled, but the next scene shook him to the core. The streets were a graveyard of car wrecks and explosion scars. The headless bodies hanging under the bridge were shocking, a real-life horror scene known as Juicense Res, basically hell on earth. The convoy finally reached Mexico's infamous prison, and Merba whisked away a super important inmate, the third in command of the Sinaloa cartel, on a rather tense. Kate sensed something was off, feeling like a shadow car was stalking them all the way, definitely a Sinaloa group ambush in the making. Merba's team detected several suspicious vehicles, and those drug traffickers, fully armed, immediately assumed a combat stance, truly embodying the big boss characters in a telenovela. Just as the enemy was about to step out of the car, the squad charged in, seizing control in a flash, but due to they were under border laws, they had to hold back until shots were fired. The guy with a full head of bat tattoo stared at the soldiers, his gaze as icy as a winter's day. Next, the only question lingering in Kate's mind was, what in the world are we actually doing? Kate could hardly believe that in broad daylight, Merba's team dared to fire the guns at the border. Merba, unfazed, chewed gum like he was on a leisurely stroll, while Kate was in total shock. Soon, the third in command was brought to a secret hideout, feigning nonchalance. But as he caught sight of Sandra approaching with a water bucket, his face instantly conveyed a deep sense of fear, screaming, scared. Merba's team finally squeezed some valuable info out of the third in command. They rushed to the bus station overnight, stopping all passengers trying to cross, and the tension in the air was palpable. After keeping a select group of travelers, Sandra began the screening, while Kate felt like a total outsider. Merba said there's a covert tunnel at the U.S.-Mexico border where drugs are smuggled like underground air freight. The third in command had no clue about the tunnel's exact location. They needed to create chaos to draw out the second in command. After some effort, they finally screened out a few smugglers who pointed out the tunnel's exact entrance to Sandro. Their mission was to lure the second in command back to his lair in Juicense Res, targeting money laundering associates for capture. Just as the operation was drawing to a close, Kate believed she could uncover some clues at the bank. This is sheer ignorance of the real situation. Every move she made was under the watchful eyes of the drug cartel, resulting in her getting a delivery service. While one person sat at the bar, Kate, in the old black car, moaned and whined about this strange day. At that moment, a muscle-bound guy caught her eye. He was also a cop, and they hit it off real well. Kate finally experienced a long-lost joy, temporarily forgetting about all that cartel business. Just as she was about to describe some action sequences, she suddenly caught sight of something that looked like a rubber band. It was the rubber band utilized for binding money seized during daytime drug busts. At this very moment, the man by her side was still desperately attempting to justify himself. Kate instantly understood everything. This guy was actually a hitman sent by the very drug cartel she had been chasing after. She forcefully pushed him away all of a sudden, yet he tightly grabbed her by the neck, and the expressionless muscle guy coldly remarked, "This entire situation is your doing." Just as she was about to pass out, a figure approached slowly. It was Sandra, who had been tailing her. Sandra had been lurking in the shadows to draw out the dirty cup. Under the coercion of Sandra, the corrupt policeman promptly confessed, disclosing an exhaustive list of cartel agents. Suddenly, through drone surveillance, the second in command finally went into action. Watching the second in command head toward the den of thieves, Kate felt a wave of unease wash over her. Shortly after, they were left with a whole entourage of armed men, making Kate even more anxious. She cautiously trailed behind, hoping to discover a way to break the deadlock. Just as she was getting anxious, Neighbor instructed her to stick with him. But Kate noticed Sandro had entered another tunnel and followed him without hesitation. Sandro finished off a drug dealer with a final shot and also took out the dirty cop. Just as he was about to escape, Kate suddenly appeared behind him, gun drawn. But Sandro quickly retaliated, firing 2 shots that only struck Kate's bulletproof vest. While not lethal, the impact nearly knocked her off her feet. Sandro coldly looked at her and said, "You really asked for this." Then he turned and left with the dirty cop. Kate fumed as she walked out of the tunnel, her face a portrait of displeasure. She headed straight for Neighbor, determined to draw some clear boundaries. But Neighbor wasn't fazed, swiftly dishing out the spicy lesson. Next, Neighbor finally unveiled Sandro's past, which was straight out of a soap opera. At some point, Sandro was a prosecutor who had no choice but to collaborate with the government after crossing paths with Sinaloa's interests.